Welcome to another episode of the Digi Tools Accrual World podcast as part of our Digital Disruptors brand. And talking about that, of course, we've just come off the back of Accountex, and Mr. Ryan Piercy, our co-host and part of our little network that we're growing, decided to bugger off and not even turn up for Accountex. So Indy and I were left, we were abandoned and had to deal with the hordes, the masses of people that were interested in what we were doing. And poor Indy lost a voice. I was absolutely bloody knackered to run off my feet. Luckily, we were saved by some people in the Systems Advisory Network. But come on, Ryan, what have you got to say for yourself?
Well, I guess first, I was loving it. I had my feet up in a forest. It was beautiful. But I did have the worst FOMO of my life watching what was an incredible show and what looked like an amazing area that we'd put on. Sounds like we had lots of interest, people coming across. Really want to hear more about that. I know we've got some discussions with some of the Systems Advisory Network that joined us, but this is an education session for me, John. I'm going to be learning as much from this podcast as I guess anyone else that listens to it, because I was silly enough to have a holiday at the time of one of the biggest UK accounting shows. Terrible.
Unbelievable. What terrible diary management you have. And you've only got yourself to blame. But luckily, at least luckily for Indy and I, you did organise everything in advance of Accountex. So we literally just had to turn up. So we do have to give you kudos for that, because otherwise we probably would have turned up and it'd be like a cardboard box in the corner of a room somewhere. And that would have been a little less effective.
I should have done that just for your bed. Little hobo station.
But yeah, in this episode, we're going to cover, as you said, we're going to cover a bit of a rundown of Accountex and talk to some of the Systems Advisory Network guys who did help us out, because, as I said, it was pretty busy at times, and Indy and I had a few talks that we had to rush off to and stuff. So we did have other people help us out, and there was some really interesting conversations on the standards of consequence, and of course, there's the usual app news and bits and pieces coming. And I think we'll have a little bit more from Tony at FreeAgent as well to drop into the pod. And he can give us a few more insights around the friendliest accounting product in the world. So, in big news that broke just before Accountex, it was announced that Lightyear had been sold to the Access Group. So, just in case you don't know who those folks are, Lightyear is probably one of the more complex OCR products out in the various ecosystems alongside Xero, but they also plug into things like Intact and NetSuite. The guys behind it are predominantly based over in Northern Ireland, and they have done this before, because they have built an app in the past and sold it, if I remember rightly, to Intuit. And of course, Access have been incredibly acquisitive over the last couple of years, particularly apps in the Xero type ecosystem, because they've now got Fathom and Unleashed and a whole bunch of other things. And there are rumors afoot that they might be making an acquisition in the practice management space as well. So interesting. Lightyear was founded in 2017, so they've been going, what's that, make them 7 years? So yeah, not too bad. And as I said, the guys have built up a really great product there. So great news to see that. Very interesting acquisition from Access, because they've been struggling to get OCR into their main Access Dimensions product in an effective way. So I think this will be really good for them to bolt that on. And of course, like I say, they're building up an interesting ecosystem of other products in their space.
I'd assume it wouldn't be Access Dimension. It should be Access Financials. But yeah, I think it's fine, John. It doesn't matter.
It's all the same. It's all the same to me, right?
But the acquisition strategy they have put in place has been amazing. It's like the opposite of Xero. That's how I'd probably summarize this. It's been really targeted, really effective, and they've got a really good suite now.
And also, what's really important, I think, is that they don't appear to be interfering too much with these products, insofar as they're not taking away the DNA of what those products is about, but they are obviously helping them to flesh themselves out. It appears, for all intents and purposes, that Unleashed and Fathom, etc., are still being successful products on their own right, but also them being, like I say, bolted into the Access Financial suite.
I had a really interesting conversation with Access Group just before this acquisition was announced. And also post the acquisition being announced, because obviously Access and Lightyear turned up to our Accountex event, which was delightful. Thank you for coming, and thanks to everyone else who joined us. And yeah, it seems like there's some other acquisitions on their horizon as well to complete the full suite, the royal flush of accounting, shall we call it. And they've got some really interesting perspectives on how they're going to continue to build out across those platforms. So I'm quite excited to see how the next 6 months go with them in terms of which other businesses they bring on and how they integrate those a little bit more sophisticatedly than some of the recent acquisitions we've seen. On a different front, so there's Canopy, which is a firm-wide operating system, not an exit, but has actually secured a $35 million round, oversubscribed round. And so the Canopy, what does it do? It's an AI-based software operating system, and it's a suite of tools that are tailored to power the entire customer lifecycle, from proposals to payment, client engagements, document management, workflow optimization, and time and billing, time and fees. It doesn't really go into a lot of the detail of how it operates, but obviously it's a huge round because it was, as I said, oversubscribed. It's named as G2's top 100 fastest growing softwares of 2024. I can't really see a lot in the way that, that we say, okay, so this is significantly different from some of the other AIs that are coming out, other than the fact they're saying, they're deploying these sorts of AI to automate the tasks, enabling accountants to spend all of their time doing what they actually love, working directly with clients on strategic activities. I love that quote. So you guys can do more of what you love if you are to deploy Canopy into your software.
I think this is great news because I think we've talked about Canopy before, because I think we've covered a previous raise that they might have done possibly 2 years ago now, but I can't remember exact timing. But this is just one of many products that we're seeing coming into the cloud space for practice management for accountants. But doing more than just core practice management. So in the UK, we've got Carbon and FYI kind of like duking it out at the moment, doing the same kind of thing. Canopy, like I say, big in North America, and maybe they're going to start expanding into other territories because they've got a lot in that product and potentially got a lot to offer firms over here who are desperate to move that kind of solution to the cloud.
But how is this different from some of the other practice management softwares that we're seeing that have already been in this space for a long time and then said that they're integrating AI tools into what they're doing? So, for example, like Carbon, I know we haven't heard a lot from Accountancy Manager post the Bright acquisition, but again, it's still a cloud-based accounting software system. It's still a tech company. I know that, I guess that Canopy are doing something fairly well because they've got 3,000 accounting firms using it. But what are your perspectives on that?
There clearly is a gap in the market because we've got like say Carbon FYI in the market. Client Engage is still gaining huge amount of traction here in the UK from a small practice point of view. The challenge, when you mention things like Accountancy Manager and maybe some of the other products that were very popular in our market, is that they seem to have lost their way a little bit. And whether that's a consequence of acquisition or just not being able to maintain their pipeline and growth, that's a big issue. And then, of course, the incumbents that we've got, the CCHs, the RSs, etc. of the world, are on that pathway to moving to cloud, but that pathway is slow. Why wait for an incumbent to deliver in maybe the next 6 to 12 months when you can switch today and potentially unlock that almost immediately?
Right. So I've got another raise, this one from an embedded accounting startup called Layer, who are basically aiming to replace QuickBooks. Quite lofty objective there. They have raised 2.3 million in a pre-seed round, and their investors are the likes of executives from Square, Plaid, Unit, and Check. So I guess all of those that are embedded finance to some extent, as Indy always talks about from an embedded finance aspect, we now have that new area of embedded accounting. Now, what they're going to use this for is to basically push out a further rollout across their SMB market at the moment, mostly focused on the US from what I can tell. But if you're not entirely sure how embedded accounting works, it is based entirely on a data set and APIs. So it's pulling information from various different areas and scaling them in a layer, as they call it, a layer ledger. Mostly putting information from external bank accounts and credit cards, and then feeding them mostly, I think, through AI as they're looking to move into the reporting transaction basis, and also putting information. They're aiming to put information from payroll as well.
Yeah, another fascinating one, isn't it? And I mean, I guess the interesting thing about the 2.3 million raised for them is that I think that's probably the kind of revenue that QuickBooks turnover in about 3 minutes. So that's the biggest challenge for them, I guess. What I did like about the commentary was that they're looking to replace legacy software like QuickBooks. I was like, wow, that's bold.
Wow.
If you're calling a cloud product legacy,
Shot fired. Whoa,
unbelievable. Love
that
it. Absolutely love it.
I
So
like
there you
it. It's
go.
brazen. It's brazen. We like
Yeah.
more of that, more Machiavellian approach to software
Wow.
development and raising money.
There you go, free agent and Xero. You're now officially in the legacy crowd. So there you go.
Oh, actually, talking about free agent, they're not quite legacy because you guys mentioned Client Engager and they have launched their new integration with Client Engager. So it's a new integration will allow you to sync contacts invoices between the two softwares. Johan, who obviously has come on the podcast a couple of times, the co-founder of Client Engager, Johan Gori. And he said that partnering with Free Agent allows another segment of the community to benefit from integrating their practice management tool and their accounting and bookkeeping solution. So hopefully working together will enhance and deliver a solution that simplifies tasks and centralizes client management.
And that's not the only integration that Free Agent are knocking out here, because they've also announced an integration with Zen and Connect. So Gareth Solomon, who's behind that, who's a huge supporter of our pre-accounting conference events. I think he's pretty much attended every single one since we started. He's got a great product. Zen and Connect, for anyone that's not familiar, is I guess very similar to, say, Expert or Dex Precision in terms of being able to check and verify your accounting data and look for anomalies in there. And Free Agent announced this at the same time as the Client Engager announcement, and a great opportunity for you now to be able to check and verify your Free Agent data in the same way that we've been able to do with Xero and other products for a while now.
Free Agent continue to roll out products. I've got something from FYI. They have released FYI Elite, which is integrating their document management, their process automation, and the CRM side into a single platform. Looks like it's been in beta testing in Australia since October 23, but now being released worldwide from May. I guess the big focus on this is that they're now moving more into the practice management side, FYI, which again, mostly document management. Historically, they've now got time and billing in there. Client maintenance, so a dedicated area for each client, ability to record meetings and phone calls all in one space. I guess that's moving into that CRM area, and all done in a secure manner, also through their portal instead of via direct email attachments. And they've overlaid the whole thing with advanced employee management and reporting. So it looks like they've really thought about this, and they're pushing and heavily challenging in that practice management area.
Yeah, I was at the launch event just before Accountex, where they sort of went through this in a bit more detail. It's been in beta apparently for 7 months with some of their core customers already, and the presentation and what I saw of the product looks super slick.
And then something from iplicit, which I'm gonna do a brag for a moment. And I know this is a podcast, so we can't really do it justice, but hopefully the video podcast for this is good enough. If you can see this bloody amazing Tony's Chocolonely iplicit chocolate, which I can't tell you. I hate them and I love them at the same time because they've totally blown my summer body diet. So not even yummy mummy anymore. That's the problem, right? I'm down to hot mess. Anyway,
Should be
so
mummy.
iplicit have they have been announced as a top 10 high flyer from the Sunday Times as one of the best places to work, best employees. And so congrats to them. Obviously, the team were out in full force at Accountex, and it was really great to see Paul Sparks on the day. And they've also recently recruited Damon, who'd come across from Employment Hero. So it's seems like the team is really growing great guns, and we were really happy to see them make the Sunday Times list. Congrats.
Quick update from Xero. Basically, they've summarized all their updates for the last quarter, and the main one, the one that seems to have got the most excitement out of my team, is that you can now see 50 statement lines in the Xero Bank Rec. That was the one that gripped everyone, and they were like, woo! Apart from that, it's pretty much the same stuff we've been talking about on the pod recently. It's about changes to the new Xero invoicing, and the search functionality and changes to bills as well. Nothing dramatic coming out from Xero, but we are approaching XeroCon, so maybe something will be coming down the road. Also, a quick update from QuickBooks. I think we talked about the QuickBooks Ledger coming down the road. It is now live, just £3 plus VAT per month for internal use at clients. I believe, internal use by accountants on behalf of their clients. If your client needs access, you need to upgrade them, but you can easily do that from inside the system. Very similar to Xero Ledger license as well. I think there's a bit of a mimicking as those two do from time to time.
Validate Me has been selected as one of the companies in the Fring Crime Tech 50, which is a new list of the most innovative tech companies leading the fight against money laundering, fraud, and financial crime in financial services. So it's a great win for Validate Me to be recognised. There was over 400 companies nominated, and they're really they're amongst the top tier of those in the tech companies that are fighting that money laundering, fraud, and financial crime globally. So well done to them. Top 50.
In other news from Sage, this was announced a little while ago, was that Sage have launched CoPilot into their product. And it is like most CoPilot products. It's a generative AI system that's going to be looking at the data that's being held within various Sage products and platforms, etc. Steve Hare, who is the chief executive, who was talking about how he was really confident about Sage being able to implement this CoPilot product really effectively, and he was taking a really close sort of oversight of this development over time. I did put a rather snarky comment on this on LinkedIn, because I was like, well, I appreciate it's a CEO and he should be across all things, but he shouldn't be taking too close a view on what's going on with this, because that's why they have the CPO and the CTO in Sage to make sure they implement this effectively. But it's going to be, it's going to be really exciting to see this. I caught up with Chris Downing at Accountex the other day, and he's really, really excited about this. It's going to be really interesting, I think, to see whether the perception of Sage as a set of products changes as a result of this, or whether they still struggle to kind of get that message across that Sage are, back at the races, as it were.
Yeah, and they still plan to charge for this. So, a lot of the AI that's come out from other products is it's in their complimentary or free. So if it's not working 100% effectively, I guess you're kind of like, well, it's, I'm not paying any extra for this. It'll develop over time as we use it. So they're still planning to charge for it. I think it needs to, have that slowly approach, as you said, John, so that they can get out some of the bugs before they go, and no, here's a fee for utilizing this product. The other bit I really liked is they did refer to the release of PEG and that absolute flop of that. I thought that was really good that they referred to that, the fact we have learned from this and we know what not to do.
I was really excited when PEG was launched, and then it was absolutely rubbish, so it was very disappointing. But there you go. It's what it is.
Good little character though. That's the thing. You need a little emoji character. That's what you need. Right, I've got something a little bit different from Sage. AirWallex have built their bill pay solution into Xero. So unlike, what Cresco have done, which is embedded that directly into the Xero platform, AirWallex will sit separately, integrate two-way, most of the payment tools, and be able to pull invoices down from inside Xero and enable the payment using the AirWallex bill pay feature. If you've not used this, it's really good if you've got multiple foreign currency invoices and the ability to pay from different accounts. That's a very, big positive of using the AirWallex bill pay, because you're probably already using AirWallex multiple different accounts in that platform, because that's exactly what it's built for. Something that I believe Accrual Max has built into as well is the AirWallex platform. So there's a whole linking here of the various different elements. Something that I will now be checking out a bit more detail is this area, especially since that integration into Xero. Main thing they're focusing on is what I guess everyone in this space is trying to resolve, is that fragmented workflows, the disconnect between doing all your invoice processing and have to manually type those into a bank, and with it, reducing error and manual process and saving time, especially on those that are paying international suppliers.
Yeah, it looks like another exciting integration. Hopefully we'll see one that sticks, because that seems to be the problem whenever Xero partner up with people for these kind of bill pay solutions, is they either don't get the traction they should, or don't work quite as well. But yeah, we'll see. Moving on to something audit related. Mercia and Inflo are partnering up together to offer the Mercia methodology in Inflo work papers and Inflo have worked with Mercia to sort of redesign their methodology to be more suitable for the digital audit era, if you like, and obviously the data analytics requirements. This is again, this is an area where I was a little bit snarky because having seen and used the Mercia methodology in the past, it's from a data analytics point of view, historically, it's been pretty poor. And I've also been very critical of all of the methodology providers in audit in terms of them not really moving quickly enough with the changes and the expectations from regulators in audit in terms of embracing technologies around things like data analytics and open banking, etc. So this is interesting news. I think it's also interesting news in the context that I know the Inflo team in the past have approached various numbers of methodology providers and vendors in the past, and we're not taken seriously. So it's an interesting turn up for the books. This in terms of I feel like the tables have turned a little bit, and people in this market have suddenly realised that cloud is the way to go, and the incumbent providers really need to up the game if they want to stay relevant.
Yeah, no, it's something that they were kind of fighting each other to some extent, and now they've changed from that and they've decided to work together. It's a much better approach. We need more of that in the industry. I think we're starting to see more of that, going away from the competitiveness. Maybe still there in the accountancy sector, less than the software side, but even that, the likes of what we've been building with the Systems Advisory Network is all about collaboration, working together. There's enough out there for us all to succeed.
I'd agree with that.
I've got something, I was talking about embedded accounting at the start. I'm now talking about embedded finance. Startup Ember, so accounting automation startup Ember, partners with HSBC UK. So in this space, basically, the tool is an embedded tax offering, which is looking to fetch, I guess, company records from banking transactions and automatically categorize them to enable a more effective, processing perspective from a tax element. So you can track expenses and receipts, create invoices, and do basic accounting. And they're working with HSBC, I guess, in the same way that some of the ones like Starling and building out accounting solutions, HSBC are looking to partner with an already existing tool and automate that. Maybe the start of another FreeAgent partnership like they did with NatWest. Very early on, can't tell. We'll see if it works in the same way. But at the moment, the tool is a lot smaller, needs to develop if it's ever going to get to the accounting side. Definitely aimed at the smaller end of the spectrum. Maybe this is where HSBC want to penetrate.
I think we talked a little bit about Ember in the past, and it's got an weird position in the market, I think is fair to say. And I think they've got to try and figure out where they find their place in the market. But anyway, we'll see where they get to, I guess. Moving on then to almost, I think, the end of our news is that TaxCalc have expanded out their suite and brought in group accounts or consolidation reporting within TaxCalc. I think this is really fab news from the TaxCalc guys, because I know that they've been picking up quite a lot of new accounting opportunities from firms in terms of challenges around with Iris and the challenges of moving people onto the Elements product. I know that TaxCalc have certainly benefited from that, and expanding this capability out to allow group accounting obviously means that they can appeal to a broader range of accounting firms as well who have these kind of requirements, or quite often maybe could use TaxCalc for 95% of their clients, and these odd 5%, they had to keep in, say, CCH or something else to fill the gap. And again, we've talked a lot about this in the past, but firms want to kind of consolidate down, ironically, the number of products they're using rather than consolidate out the numbers. So that's great news. Obviously, again, I think as we're going to see changes with the audit regulations and potentially like changes to the small and medium sized group sizes as well in a not too distant future, this actually means that their potential appeal to a much broader market gets even bigger as well. So happy days for them.
Yeah, all good. And I think you're right. It's attacking those accounts that use that 5% as an excuse not to migrate. So hopefully this will encourage those to consider more of those cloud-based systems such as TaxCalc. So we welcome back Tony Stevenson from FreeAgent, getting under the hood, I guess, of the FreeAgent product. Do you know how many approximately integrations you have now?
Practice-wise, I think we sit about 100. But they're obviously varying different levels of integrations, but that's predominantly focused towards ones that you would know of and heard of that are sit within that sort of core ecosystem that, you know, practices have heavily adopted over the years, and that's sort of where we focused our efforts.
Yeah, and you've built some very specific ones as well that I know we've covered on the pod in App News, but where I guess you're differentiating, like the Amazon one. You know, you're going down and you're finding certain partners to do those deep integrations. And are you doing that strategically? You're going, okay, what do our customers want? What is it where our niche is? Let's see how we can enhance our products through partnerships. Is that a strategy?
That was just Jeff reached out to us directly and said, I'd really like to integrate with you guys, because I know I've got billions and billions in the bank, but I now feel that if I could get this integration nailed, then I think I could sleep easy.
It makes sense.
In all seriousness, it wasn't Jeff, but it was Amazon actually reached out to us directly and said, we'd like to do this. So we built the integration, and it was the first sort of direct into FreeAgent and what we call an add-on, right? So, and the feedback on it's been astonishingly good, actually. Like, you know, I think we thought it might make a little bit of a splash, but actually we've had loads of sort of people shouting about it on social and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that there's a sort of recognition that there are opportunities where our product could fit into the wider space and solve problems that it hasn't previously tackled, and Amazon's a really good example of that. So we took people through in the roadshow and showed like kind of how it plays out in FreeAgent, and the sort of response was, is that all you have to do? Having obviously dealt with that spreadsheet before, you know, where they go, oh, I don't know how to fix this. Can you fix this 10,000 line spreadsheet that's for that week's widgets, right? It just pulls it straight all of in, populates bills, populates invoices, and then matches it all off together, uses the AI, and then it all just kind of filters through into one transaction, all perfectly explained in the background. You know, that's the dream. So yes, that's definitely a play, is to start to sort of look at some of those areas that we could potentially leverage our platform into better. So yeah, Amazon's a really good example of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect response. You say you want something where someone goes, is that it? Because it means you've built something really slick.
Jeff, we nailed it.
So easy. Yeah, exactly. He can sleep easy now.
He can.
Knowing that his FreeAgent customers are satisfied. But no, like the main thing is that we are noticing it. Like we are noticing. We end up talking about FreeAgent app news so frequently now about the things you're bringing out. But what I really like is that it doesn't feel like it's rushed. It feels like it's planned. And if you talk about, I guess, the old adage of the tortoise and the hare, it feels very much like the FreeAgent are the tortoise that have been creeping up and will end up kind of slowly dominating. Do you kind of feel that? I'm not saying you guys are slow at FreeAgent, but do you feel that that's kind of the way you go about it? It's very methodical.
Yes, I think that we spent a long time nailing that end user experience, and now we've kind of we've now shifted towards how do we translate that into the practice world. And I don't think we're a million miles away from it. It's just there's a few things, and the right people are tackling those hard problems now, and you know, really behind kind of ticking off those sort of last 5 or 10 things that will really make it a joy to use from a practice perspective, in the same way that our end users find. One of the things that's kept me at FreeAgent so long is, you know, that you must have seen that there's that sort of like model where it's like, here's your comfort zone, and then like here's a sort of just like stretch zone, here's like what you could achieve, and then here's just disaster because everything's on fire and it's all broken and stuff. And we sit really nicely in that sort of like, you know, we can run a bit faster, we can go a bit faster, we can challenge everybody in a good way, and that sort of proliferates through everything that we do. That sort of pace of change has definitely increased over the course of the last year and a half, but it's not unmanageable. But it is starting to just keep putting those bets in the marketplace of like, you know, these are the things that we're doing, and it all kind of gradually adds up. So very long-winded way of saying, yeah, you're right, mate.
Yeah. Well, it's nice. It's nice when now and again, very rarely, that I am right. But the other thing I love, you know, as you are part of NatWest, is the integration into the Metal Bank. And I know you ran through that with me the other day, and the depth of that and what you're doing with that, I can only see that that's going to improve, expand over time, and become something that the banks can't seem to get right, and the accounting tech can't fully get right. You sit perfectly in the middle to align the two. So I think that's something that we can only look forward to even deeper integrations over time.
I'm impressed that you have kept the chocolate that long at Indy, because I absolutely annihilated the chocolate the day after.
I have a delayed gratification, John. I actually enjoy taking little lumps of this one at a time. And you know, it is that discipline, because I just need to look at this chocolate and put on weight. And I'm sure, I know you have that physique, you can eat it and it just comes out straight away. Whereas me, I just need to smell it and I probably put on about a stone. So I think it's just, you know, I'm slow. I'm slow and I'm round.
You'd pass the marshmallow test, that's what you said.
I would. It's a measure of intelligence, isn't it, the marshmallow test?
It's a measure of potential future opportunities.
I have no idea what you two are talking about.
Although I believe it's been slightly
Discredited.
Slightly discredited in recent.
Well, anyway, but the marshmallow test, for those that don't know, is that if you see it, it's like in front of a child, right? You have a marshmallow, and if they don't eat it, and you tell them if you wait, then you'll get another marshmallow, and it's whether they actually manage to wait out. And most kids just end up eating it. So I haven't done this test, but I'm pretty sure I would wait. And then when
What's
they
the
come
age?
back,
Like
don't
5,
know.
6-year-olds, I think.
Yeah.
I now have to test this on my daughter. I'm going to test it with marshmallows.
There is a great book that accompanies it, and I've read the book, and as I read the book when Jess was about the same age, so I was like, I did exactly the same. The hypothesis is, or what they're trying to prove in the theory, was that if you can delay that gratification thing in terms of waiting for the second marshmallow, it means that you're likely to be more successful in the future, because you can kind of like delay that gratification in terms of you're not as sort of
Impulsive.
What's the word I'm looking for? Impulsive. That's the word. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
I do
cool.
know this
Well-
about myself. I would be likely that when you came back with the additional marshmallow, I would say, yeah, but I was so good. Can I have 2 extra instead of just 1 extra?
Would you not like stuff them in your cheeks and go, ah?
Yeah, I would. I'd stuff a load of them. And then if they said, you can help yourself to the 1 extra, I'd dig my whole hand in, quickly put them in my mouth and lick them and say, yeah, done.
And would you go for the white ones or the pink ones?
White.
Aren't they the same? Just different colours.
No.
What if they were like those? Have you seen those giant marshmallows? Which are sort of like that size.
Yeah, I
sort of like
do.
normal marshmallow. Would you go? What would you do if it was one of those?
Oh, I definitely wait it out and ask for about 3 more and then chuck them. Yeah, 100%. We should try this out, because I'm a marshmallow boss on this. You know, my daughter and I, we have all sorts of techniques for these marshmallows. Don't worry. Come Christmas time, come and see me.
S'mores, is that what we're talking?
We make snowmen out of marshmallow. We toast them up. The things I do to a marshmallow. Anyway.
Awesome. We are joined by some of the amazing people that helped out on the automation station, which was the stand that we had for the digital disruptors at Accountex recently. And we couldn't have done it without you guys. So that's why we brought you on, because we wanted to just find out what your feedback was from the show, why you wanted to help out with this over the last couple of days and make it all work for us, because Indy and I were busy running around like crazy people. And of course, Ryan had fucked off on holiday, so we had no help from him. So I'm going to go to Dayle first. Dayle, quick intro, mate, and tell us very briefly why you decided to come and help out.
I think being a part of the Digital Disruptors network is really, really helpful. Like the app advisory, systems advisory, whatever kind of role you want to call it within accounting and finance, can feel kind of lonely because it's somewhat new. And no one can know everything about every single app, whether that's practice management, whether that's client facing, whether that's both. So it's really cool just being part of a group of people who I can lean on and go, hey man, do you know more about this than I do?
Awesome, thank you, mate. Jules, do you want to go next?
Hello, I'm Julie Sinsbury. I'm Head of Systems Development and IT at More South. And I just kind of ended up on the stand one morning and went, I'm going to help bring these wonderful people together and answer some queries. And do you know what? It was absolutely fascinating. I found it really interesting that we got a really similar amount of interest from the vendors as we did people who were in accountancy. So it's really lovely to see how vendors actually want to help people achieve the solutions to their problems that they're having. It's not just within our community that we're helping. It's the vendors are keen to find out what the actual problems are and get some solutions for them. So yeah, it was a fab experience.
And last but not least, Keaton, you have managed to fill the Beaver and Shudders pipeline for the next 6 months off the back of the being on the stand. So, go on, mate, quick intro.
Yeah, my name's Keaton. I have the title Systems Advisory Specialist, whatever that means. I basically do stuff that's tech related for clients and deal with internal projects and whatnot. It just depends on what's needed. I guess why was I on the stand? I honestly don't know. I just felt like it was home for me, and I just felt I could help more and more people.
Well, at least we found your home.
It was a home for Keaton. It was the best experience. Every time I looked over, I thought, oh, God, there he is. Old daddy in the home. Sat down on the chair and people would come to the desk and I'd say, yeah, I don't know the answer to this question, but that gentleman over there is part of our network and he's going to give you a really good answer.
He was loving it, wasn't he? We could put him in a cage at the end of the night, a little bit of food and water, and he was settled, wasn't he?
No, I think that what we really liked on the day was that we had the variety of people, because I think that most of the queries that came in, there was some that I noted that were from the basic level of I only use Excel, so where should I go? Which that was probably the most interesting question that we had. And lovely Sam King joined us to help that gentleman, to introduce him to Dext and Xero and the basics of how to get started. And we had some other ones that were more around like, okay, well, who is a competitor to X or Y or Z in the room? And who could you use as an alternative to this software that doesn't cover this specific need? So say, for example, I think, John, you were part of that conversation where they were saying they don't want to use one of the apps because they were forcing the employees to use iPhones. Was it?
Yeah, that was it. I can't remember what the vendor was, to be honest, but yeah, it was very weird. I want to say it was someone like Dex, but I don't think it was Dex.
I thought it was Fergus, or it was one of the jobbing softwares.
Yes, I think it was Fergus, actually. Yeah, you could be right.
So again, there were very specific inquiries that I think we were able to at least switchboard on the stand. So if we take a step back, we actually had the benefit of having a stand at Accountex this year. And it was a first launch of the Digital Disruptors network, of which Keaton, Julie, Dayle are part of, amongst many systems advisors. And we had a few others join us on the day. What we loved about it was that people came and there was a curiosity as to what it is that we're trying to do. And we're able to extend the reach and invite a whole host more accountants and app vendors to understand more around the network and the opportunity. But then also for us, it was a learning experience as to like what value we could actually add to the people that were able to join us on the day. So I think it's really helpful if maybe, Keaton, you could start with just talking to me about how you found it and some of the people and the conversations that you had, because you never really stopped talking.
No, it was a really good day. A lot of conversations were had on the stand, and to be honest with you, being on the stand is what I would class as home. I've worked with vendors in the past, and it's a nice place to be because it feels like I have a sense of purpose rather than just walking around asking for swag. But yeah, on the conversation front, I had the privilege of meeting so many different people from different backgrounds, whether it was a startup accounting practice to, I would say, a more established one where they've got roughly 20 employees and some larger. Conversations were basically around what systems they could be using internally to help streamline a lot of their workflows. Was it around their accounts production software doesn't speak to, I don't know, their practice management, or it doesn't speak to their cloud bookkeeping like Xero or Quickbooks? And it was a really difficult place to be as well, because a lot of the time they would ask me for a solution there and then. But in the grand scheme of things, there is no way I can provide a solution straight off the bat without knowing a bit more about the background of what's going on. So benefit from the network is that it's not only me that has these expertise, we have a whole bunch of people of just really smart, fun to work with people in the network that can help in all different areas of tech, but then also up and down the country.
Yeah. And I think that was the mistake that we made, is not putting your face on the stands a little bit more. And I think that's probably a lesson learned going forward for us, that we need to try and make sure that we're more intentional about marketing the people that joined us on the day, and making sure that they get the same props and the space to then be able to show off their expertise. Because as you said, you had to give some level of context and understanding to the direct problem they had, which is, okay, how does this software talk to that software? But then beyond that, I suppose it's the start of a conversation that you can continue, that it goes beyond just the show. So is that something that, from your perspective, does that add value to, I guess, your, like, what your working day looks like, and how else do you see it as something that could continue, like you could extract value from beyond the show?
In terms of follow-on value, yes, there's definitely some personal value to these conversations. One, it just highlights that I can talk well. And the other side of it is it helps build pipeline within my role. So, like, which is invaluable, I think, to any employer or employee, especially when you have that. But then also means that we can open up conversations to sharing work within the network, because there could be areas that I'm great at being able to support with, but there's also areas where maybe Dayle has expertise in a different specialism that the firm needs or the potential client needs, where we can work cross-functionally or cross-business-wise.
See, the thing is, I'm curious about this because in that sense, the opportunity is like not the same as most other industries. You can then collaborate with people where they're in other industries, it would be competition, right? So it's like, instead of that, you're basically talking about something that's like a collaborative co-opetition. Is that a word? Co-opetition.
I think that's one of the great things, right, about our market nowadays, is that when I joined the sector, is that we used to be all, with our own badges with the firm name over the door, and we would never talk to anyone else. And now we've got the Systems Advisory Network, we've got the App Advisory Plus guys, what they're doing with their network. We've got a whole bunch of other networks that people like Xero and Quickbooks have curated and created and things. And Heather Smith, who's been on the pod before as well, got a great network of people. Accountants, not just in the UK but across the world, are willing to like share ideas and thoughts and stuff. And that's a great opportunity. There's plenty of work out there for everyone, and there's plenty of opportunity to share ideas with other people and to create partnerships where you can't serve the clients that you want to keep hold of.
And you hope that the other firm will just give you some work back as well. I scratch your back, you scratch my back.
yeah, Dayle.
You guys haven't sent me any work.
I just love that whole feeling that there is in the community, is that it's not about hogging the work. It's about, let's give our clients a really great experience and help them solve the problems that they've got. And if we aren't the best people to do that, can someone else do it better than us? Or can we learn more about it ourselves and then be in a position to do a better job for them? I just think that's such a great little community to have instant access to. And the banter. I mean, the banter's not bad.
The banter's okay. I mean, it was B+ at best this time, to be honest, Julie. We were too tired. My voice was too sore, and John was off on 50 other talks. So half the time it was kind of a really strained, banterous 2 days. But one thing that I didn't get an opportunity to do, I only did it at the very end, was walk the hall. So I know that I asked a few people if they'd seen anything new or anything interesting or different in the room from this time to last time or any of the other events. Who wants to kick off and see if they could share anything that they found as a new insight? Dayle?
Well, first of all, I don't know if it's new. I think they had it last year, but QuickBooks had a mother flipping castle. That was pretty dope. That was like intense. But no, in terms of software, there was lots of vendors that I've seen before. That's all cool. But relatively new to the market, MIMO, MIMO, money in, money out. They're actually there. So I'd spoken to them before. They were at Accountex. Just a quick review. Their offering is quite interesting in terms of kind of accounts payable stuff. So they're a new one to me. As a lot of other people know, there's lots of seminars about AI. One of the fun facts I learned about AI, because KR is a B Corp, is the ethics and sustainability of AI. Like, I didn't know this, but on average, a query to ChatGPT uses 500 milliliters of water, and ChatGPT has something like 60 million inquiries a day. So that's something like 30 megatons or megaliters of water, which, I'm not like an eco warrior, but that's a lot of water. So if you're talking about the impact of AI, like, there's ethical considerations of like how to use it, when to use it, but also environmental stuff. And that was a lot of interesting stuff to learn about.
So basically, John going around talking about AI is actually causing an issue in the potential water usage globally.
Yeah, John Toon is destroying the world single-handedly.
It's been said before. That's why Microsoft keep trying to sink their servers in the oceans, isn't it, to like save energy?
It makes sense to take the servers to the water to get the water to the servers, right? Just put them underwater.
I didn't get to walk the floors at all because I was literally like either on the stand or went to the toilet or got Indy coffee or went to a talk, and that was pretty much it.
John, you got me one coffee. I just to clarify, it was not coffees plural. I think it was one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a time of need though.
Somebody was incredibly kind and brought you a packet of lockets or throat sweets, if we need to not say brand name, to make you sound slightly less Barry White.
But it's to actually let me even speak, because I couldn't on day 2 after Accountex, followed by day 1 of Accountex, I had no voice left, and it was just the strain of trying to push the voice out of the throat, the voice box. So yeah, thank you to JP who bought me some lockets just so I could actually speak again. But Julie, did you catch anyone interesting?
Do you know what I did? I had another brilliant conversation with Nikolai from the work we was doing with Jack, and it was just refreshing again to have that conversation with him about where he's trying to get to with the product, where just have that real-time auditing of any expenses coming in and approvals. But actually the bigger picture he was telling me is that he's just trying to get to a point where at the moment a lot of the larger companies are only accepting tenders from big suppliers that can do these massive credit terms. By opening up and using the technology, he's hoping to make the market open to much smaller suppliers so that they can all be fed through Jack and it can do the approvals, just to try and improve the accessibility to the market for these smaller suppliers. And I just thought that was a really interesting take, that something that actually looks like it's solving a small day-to-day operational problem for expenses. The big picture on that is actually making the marketplace more accessible.
I think what Nikolai's doing is incredible, and like the Genesis team there creating Jack. I mean, we saw it at Digital Accountancy Show where they did that demo and they had a capacity for 20-25 people, and I think it was about 150 people trying to watch it. So and I think they had a similar experience again at Accountex. We're actually in the middle of just about to sort of try it out as well within our teams and see what the impact is. I know I think Keaton, you saw a couple of other things that were relatively new as well, so I'll give us a shout and tell us what else you saw.
Whether they're new or not, I'm not too sure about, but they're a company called Trillian, I believe, an AI tool for, well, I think they're working with the big four at the moment, but it's basically ChatGPT equivalent, but that's probably me dumbing it down. But for accounting practices to use internally, and it also, the way they hold data is also allows accounting firms to use it without having to worry about, I don't know, the due diligence process being too, saying no. Yeah, I would say that's probably the key one that stands out to me the most from Accountex.
It's kind of equivalent to Data Snipper, although, as you say, it's got more of a use of your Gen AI model in there to do other types of extraction and testing and stuff. So, fascinating to see. And look, the audit market and that kind of part of the market needs a lot more of that kind of disruption and a lot more competition to make it really dynamic. Because at the moment, it's pretty stale, isn't it? With one or two exceptions.
Popped over and saw the guys at the Caseware stand as well. They've got their cloud accounting product released, the first version of that. So that's quite interesting to see. And then the CCH iPhone product now includes the confirmation, the bank confirmation letters as well. So again, more advancements in the cloud products coming out from the big boys.
Another unwanted product development. From
I was going to say they took their time. They took their sweet time getting there.
And on cloud products for a moment, did anyone manage to talk to the Bright Group and obviously their acquisition previously of some of the softwares and then managing to go to cloud? Did anyone find the time to understand or see or understand whether they've managed to make the leap? No?
Sorry,
no. We had a few questions on the stand about Bright, because like people are familiar with Bright Pay, or there were accountancy manager users, and obviously that's now part of Bright, or B2C users, which Bright also acquired and stuff. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to go and see them. I haven't had a chance to speak to them for a while actually. But yeah, we did have one or two queries, but I think the queries are along the lines of, what else should we go and use instead of these products because they've been acquired, which is quite often the kind of conversations that crop up, not just at those kind of events, but also quite often in in various networks. You see the same, when Iris bought Centre, you've seen it with other things, and obviously the rumours at the show were that Pixie were about to be acquired by Access, which I think is only a few days away. So it'll be interesting to see that happens and what impact that has on the market.
And of course, Access acquired just before the show Lightyear. So we had the Lightyear guys join us at Accountex. Did anyone manage to also catch up with anyone from Lightyear on the day and just to get a soundbite or a reflection?
A brief handshake and a beer. That's all I had. I'm not gonna lie. I went to the stand. I had a beer in my hand. I spoke to Kenny. He's our AM for Lightyear. Really great guy. But yeah, that's all I got to do. Sorry.
Yeah, I managed to catch up with Tom and Kenny and Chris. Actually, they were all full of beans. They were really, really looking forward to getting stuck in and working with the Access guys to move things forward. So it was really, really nice and positive for them.
I think the big question about the Lightyear boys, right, is are they going to go a third time once they get out of their Access lock-in periods, which will probably be for a couple of years, because they've done this once before and sold a product before, and obviously. They sold something to Intuit and effectively bought it back as well at one point. So, yeah, it's not their first rodeo.
Just on a little bit of a digression here, did anyone notice the total number of outsourcing businesses at Accountex? I found that really bizarre.
Loads more than usual. So many.
And yeah. There was literally the only feedback I received over and over from so many people that came to the stand, because it was a pretty steady stream of people that came just for what I guess they really bought into was the fact they could have an unbiased chat. And the one bit of feedback I received from everyone is, wow, there's loads of outsourcing, offshoring, the most that they've ever seen. And it was so interesting because the question I'd asked back was, do you use them? Have you used them? Would you use them? But again, it's just to put a question back to all of you. Do you use them? And how do they fit into your practice? And actually, why now? Why are there so many right now?
Can I answer that based on my experiences? And I'm happy to be corrected. So we do use them. We do use a particular provider. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to name them. Them's the rules. But I think why now is everyone's realised cost of living, inflation, manual processes, automation. You need to do these things cheaper. And I can't remember where I read it. It might be an Accounting Web, but they predict that by 2032 or 35, the difference between the pound and the rand or other foreign currencies is going to be really similar. So to get the benefits of outsourcing and offshoring, you kind of need to do it now, because in the future, the gap is closing. The pound's not as strong as it used to be. It's not getting stronger. So if you're going to have cheaper labor or manual processing, doing it now is the better time. That's my understanding of it. But I also want to give a shout out to, if I can, Represent, because they're like an outsource company, but not in the same way. They're not just doing offshoring. They're doing outsource sales and marketing, which their brand is pretty strong. And James Marshall, the founder, is pretty brazen. He often just says accountants and bookkeepers are really crap at sales. I'm inclined to agree as a non-accountant or bookkeeper. Love you all, but generally speaking, sales process is not followed. And I'm interested to see what they do. And no, I don't work for a representative. No, James does not pay me to say that. I'm interested to see what he does to disrupt the market.
I mean, I agree with you on the first point you make about outsourcing in terms of, I mean, it's just basic economics, right? It's we've got a boom of resource in cheaper economies, whether that's South Africa, subcontinent, India, or wherever it is. But over time, that's going to raise prices up, because we're going to want better salaries, more competitive salaries, etc. They're going to be able to shop around and move around between various employers and outsourcers anyway themselves. And so it'll become an arms race, because once you've kind of saturated, I don't know, India, which clearly with a large number of people there, it's going to take a wee while, but you're going to end up having to go to Indonesia or somewhere else to kind of access that kind of market. And for firms in the UK, the main competition for that outsourced talent at the moment is from the USA, because they've got a huge talent crunch at the moment, and they are hoovering up people as much as possible, because that's the only way that American firms can survive at the moment, because they just aren't attracting enough people into the market and graduates. There's too many people leaving the accounting sector to keep up with the pace of change. We as a firm do a little bit of outsourcing, predominantly within our network, so we're not using any of the providers that were there at stands. I think I was told that there were 40 outsourcers in total at Accountex, which just felt utterly bonkers. And I mean, in the lead up to Accountex, I must have had at least 10 or 12 like LinkedIn approaches from some of the vendors and stuff who are going to be there at the show to sort of say, come along to the stand, or are you interested in outsourcing, etc.
Do you wonder how much of that boom is going to be continued once people start automating a lot more as well and start bringing bots into practice, and there's a lot more automation that could maybe take away some of the tasks that are being outsourced currently? So it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah. I think on that point, there was some final reflections that we had of people that came to our stand. And obviously the nature of the name it was given was the automation station. So the only thing that I think our reflection was that there is a lot of demand and need for people to understand more around how data flows and automation could be implemented, executed, and people that are able to give that advisory on how that's done with the systems. So I think that the one reflection that I took away was, even there was some questions that said, well, how can we make sure that the bank reconciliation, the basics of things, are just more automated in general? And I think it was really great to have all three of you on the stand, as well as a few others. And like I said, special shout out to Sam King as well, who saved our bacon a few times, because myself and John had various different commitments and talks and whatnot. But I think, that was my one reflection and takeaway, is that there's clearly a space there for all of us to come together and be able to deliver more of our insights. And hopefully extract value and give value to people who come on the day and are looking for this type of advice. And I think that our digital transformation certificate will only go a bit further to reinforce that there's levels of understanding that different advisors have within our network. And so it would be really good to have you all back for another podcast, and also to talk about more specific problems and follow up on the things that you have found post this Accountex with some of the people that you spoke to, and again, just to do that at future events as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, Keaton didn't have a choice. His boss made him do it, but sure.
Dayle, if he'd been busy pulling in all the leads he generated over the last few days, then he would have had a genuine excuse not to turn up.
Actually, I think, Keaton, you did such a fab job, because I do think that, props to you. You stayed there, and there were points where you were like, well, I'm actually not part of the network, but I'm going to make sure that everybody knows about this network, and maybe I should join this network. Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah, can we kick John out?
I was there when Keaton was there, and he got some of the dumbest questions I've heard ever. And I know if it was me, I'd have been like, away with you now, peasant. But he was like really cool and calm, and I was just like,
tell me some of the questions, please. Just humor me. Tell me the questions.
One of them was like, can you automate my systems? And Keaton was like, what do you want automated? Like, he was like, why, what? Like, he was actually asking the scoping questions. What other ones? I think he got something like, what's the difference between Dex and auto entry? I could be wrong, Keaton.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, much for muchness. Yeah, that. But you got some dumb questions, dude. I should say that's really hard. I shouldn't discourage people. No question is a stupid question. But
I got a really random question, because someone came up to me and goes, "Oh, we've got this bespoke ERP that's out of South Africa. What can you integrate with it?" I was just like, no.
Same. I got a guy asking me about networking from a physical point of view, like an infrastructure. Who's like, "Do you do this kind of NAS drive?" I was like, "Wrong kind of networking, bro. Like, sorry."
What's in my way, Dayle?
One thing that did come from the conversations, and I think it could be something we need to raise more awareness about with apps, is where they store data. whether it's like
Yes.
AWS, if it's SharePoint, like, because I spoke to a few firms where they were categorically saying no to specific apps just because of where they host the data and having to double up on all of that stuff. Because I know for us, we have a challenge around that, but we have an internal data team which can help us with databasing and whatnot. But I don't think there is many firms that are able to do that or even have the knowledge of this stuff that I don't get.
So that's another benefit of the network, is I feel this all the time in my job. When you're bringing in a new piece of software, one of the first jobs you do, other than making sure that it's actually fit for purpose for how you're going to use it, it's then making sure that the data's stored in the right place and that they've got the right security controls around it. But you don't need to rewrite the playbook every time. That's a reasonably standard set of questions that each firm is going to be looking at every time they're analysing the software. So as part of the network, all that kind of stuff we can start collaborating on and just saving all that legwork behind it and just making sure that we are comfortable that the client's data is safe and secure and that we've got complete oversight of how it's being stored.
It's interesting that automation conversation keeps coming up as well, because you've got when we talked about Genesis, for example, they've got a tool that is automating things within a cloud product. Bots for that with their, and obviously they're using RPA to automate a whole bunch of things. Kelly Goss was there, who's like the Zapier queen. She's literally written the book on how to use Zapier, because she was on the app advisory stand. And I saw the guys from FD Intelligence walking around. Not sure if they had a stand as well. So you got a whole bunch of businesses or people who've got expertise in that kind of area, and clearly either the message isn't really getting out, or people are still struggling to access the right kind of information and services to help improve stuff. And going back to that outsourcing problem, we're all looking for improved efficiency, and we do that in two ways. We either send it to cheap labor overseas, or we do it through technology.
Now, what was that about his lips, Dayle? They are pretty juicy, aren't they?
Keaton was dropping mad information, and this guy was just puckering up, and I don't know what he was doing, but it was very distracting. It was very visual. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not even going to fret. I was wondering, why is he lathering off his lips while Keaton is talking?
Well, he was talking about data, wasn't he? He was talking about the data, and he was like, oh, yeah, I love a bit of data, me, Johnson. Oh, yeah.
Tell me more about those data flows.
Like a suckling pig.
Look, go back when we do the edit. It's like there's John, Keaton's talking, and John's just like...
One thing that did come from the conversations was where are apps hosting data, and how is data being hosted in specific areas such as AWS.
Pucker up.
He does it all the time.
I mean, massage my lips sensually at you, Keaton.
I think you should thumbnail that for the video.
Or next LinkedIn profile.
Yeah. Or just title it, John puckers his lips.
For data.
Well, the thing is...
Not sure. Was it for Keaton or was it for data, John?
We'll never know.
It was purely for Dale's benefit. That's the only reason I got him on.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so there we go. The end of another episode. We hope that you enjoyed listening to that. Of course, we want to encourage you to provide feedback to us. We want you to subscribe and like to the podcast. We would love your feedback. You can usually provide that on any of the podcast apps that you're using, or even get in contact with us directly through LinkedIn or through the website, which is digital-disruptors.com. And if you do want to join the Systems Advisory Network, of course, or you're just hearing about us off the back of Accountex, you're more than welcome to do that. Inquire through the website. We'll hook you up with the right people, and we encourage you to join and share your knowledge or learn from other people